Hello friends, welcome to ELS English Literature Studies with Kaur Harpreet. Today we'll discuss English literature and Victorian age. So let's get started with Victorian age firstly. Victorian era. Victorian era in British history. It is the period between approximately 1820 and 1914, corresponding roughly but not exactly to the period of Queen Victoria's reign, that is 1837 to 1901. This period was characterized by class based society, a growing number of people able to vote, a growing state and economy, and Britain's status as the most powerful empire in the world. This very period I'm talking about today, this period saw the British Empire's growth to become the first global industrial power, producing much of the world's coal, iron, steel, and textiles, right? During this, Britain was a powerful nation with a rich culture. It had a stable government. It also controlled a large empire and a wealthy empire because of its industrialization and because of its imperial holdings. Late in the period, Britain began to decline as a global political and economic power because of other major powers, particularly the United States of America. But this decline was not actually noticeable until after World War II. And whenever we want to know or study about literature of a particular age, we must keep some points in mind. For example, the lifestyle of people of that particular age, condition of women of that particular age, even political system prevailing at that time, right? And all these points give a clear vision of literature of that very period. So let us start with the most important points. First point I'm going to discuss is condition of women in Victorian society. Victorian society's main organizing principles were gender and class. Victorian gender ideology was premised on the doctrine of separate spheres, which means that men and women were different and they were meant for different things, right? Gender was considered to be determinative of almost every aspect of an individual's potential, right? We can say that his potential can be seen if he is male, that he is more potent than female. As per society, men were physically strong, they were independent, they were meant to participate in politics, while women were supposed to live within four walls of the house. But but with the passing of the time, the movement for women's emancipation gained ground. Now women were given political rights and more of them became independent also, right? Next is about evolution of innovative scientific ideas during Victorian era. This breakup of Victorian traditions and conventions was accelerated by the rapid advance of society. Science, with its emphasis on reason rather than on faith, encouraged the spirit of questioning. The publication of Darwin's Origin of Species in 1859 is of special significance from this point of view, right? And his celebrated theory of evolution contradicted the account of man's origin as given in the Bible. The best known Victorian scientific development is that of the theory of evolution by Darwin. Victorians were also fascinated by the emerging discipline of psychology and they were also fascinated by the physics of energy. His theory carried conviction as it was logically developed and it was supported by overwhelming evidence. Man's faith in orthodox religion was shaken. He could no longer accept anything without questioning. And the impact of these developments in science and philosophy on the literature of the period is far reaching. Then, friends, next important point is prevailing political system in that particular era, right? The formal political system was a constitutional monarchy. It was in practice dominated by aristocratic men. The British Constitution was unwritten and consists of a combination of written laws and unwritten conventions at the present time, right? At the national level, government consisted of the monarch and the two houses of the parliament, the House of Lords and House of Commons. The monarchs during this period were Queen Victoria, preceded by King George IV, and then King William IV, and followed by King Edward VII, and then King George V. During this Victorian period, the House of Commons became the centre of government. The House of Lords lost power. Members of both houses were wealthy men. Formal national politics was dominated by two major parties. First is the Liberal Party and second is the Conservative or Tory Party, right? And if we talk about important political events during this period, which occurred during this age, and they also influenced the literature of this era, the important political events included the abolition of slavery in the British Empire, the expansion of the franchisee, the rise of liberalism as the dominant political ideology, especially of the middle class, and we can say the nationalization of conservative and liberal parties, right? The Victorian British Empire dominated the globe, though its forms of rule and influence were uneven and diverse. It was the best of times for the serialized novel. This period was the best of times. It was the worst of time for style, and this period lasted 64 years. Now let us talk about English literature of this age. The kind of literature that evolved during the reign of Queen Victoria is famously known as the Victorian era literature, right? And the literature of this era was preceded by Romanticism and it was followed by Modernism, or we can say realism. Hence, it can also be called as a fusion of romantic and realist style of writing, right? Though the Victorian age produced two great poets, Alfred Lord Tennyson and Robert Browning, the age is remarkable for the excellence of its prose. When we talk about Victorian novels, if we talk about common theme in such novels, then Victorian novels tend to be idealized portraits of difficult lives in which hard work, perseverance, love, and luck win out in the end, right? They were usually inclined towards being of improving nature with the central moral lesson, while this formula was the basis for much of earlier Victorian fiction. The novels of Charles Dickens, full to overflowing with drama, humor, and an endless variety of vivid characters and plot complications, nonetheless spare nothing in their portrayal of what urban life was like for all classes. Then we have William Makepeace Thackeray. He is best known for Vanity Fair, which wickedly satirizes hypocrisy and greed. Next is Emily Bronte. Uh, Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights. Right? It is a unique masterpiece propelled by a vision of elemental passions, but controlled by an uncompromising artistic sense. Then we have novels of Emily's sister, Charlotte Bronte, especially her novels are, we can say, more rooted in convention but daring in their own ways. Then we have the novels of George Eliot, Mary Ann Evans. George Eliot appeared during the 1860s and 70s. Eliot was concerned with ethical conflicts and social problems. And if you want to know more about George Eliot, then you can check my video that is dedicated to George Eliot, right? Next, we have, after George Eliot, we have George Meredith, who produced comic novels noted for their psychological perceptions. Another novelist of the late 19th century was the prolific Anthony Trollope, famous for sequences of related novels that explore social, ecclesiastical, and political life in England. Then how we can forget about Thomas Hardy, an English novelist and poet who set much of his work in the harsh, punishing Midland country he called Wessex, right? And I have video on Thomas Hardy also and Tess of the D'Urbervilles. You can check those videos also. Then it is Samuel Butler who produced novels satirizing the Victorian ethos. Then next is Robert Louis Stevenson, a master of his craft, wrote arresting adventure fiction and children's verse, right? Then we have the mathematician Lewis Carroll, or Charles Ludwig Dodgson, writing under the name Lewis Carroll, who produced the complex and sophisticated children's classics Do you remember Alice Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll? Then, when we talk about lesser novelists of considerable merit, then we can include Benjamin Disraeli, then George Gissing, Elizabeth Gaskell, and Wilkie Collins. Right. By the end of the period, the novel was considered not only the uh, we can say premier form of entertainment, but also a primary means of analyzing and offering solutions to social and political problems. Among the Victorian masters of non-fiction were the great Whig historian Thomas Macaulay and Thomas Carlyle. Then the Thomas Macaulay and then Thomas Carlyle, the historian, social critic, and prophet whose rhetoric thundered throughout the age. Right? Then influential thinkers include John Stuart Mill, the great liberal scholar and philosopher. Then we have Thomas Henry Huxley, a scientist and popularizer who popularized Darwinian theory. Then John Henry Cardinal Newman, who wrote Honestly of Religion, Philosophy, and Education. Then we have the founders of communism, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, who researched and wrote their books in the free environment of England. The great art historian and critic John Ruskin also concerned himself with social and economic problems. Then Matthew Arnold's theories of literature and culture. His these theories of literature and culture laid the foundations for modern literary criticism, and his poetry is notable. Next, friends, I would like to talk about Victorian poetry. Victorian poetry was also indifferent from the already stated style. Much of the work of the time is seen as a bridge between the Romantic era and the modernist poetry of the next century, right? And the preeminent poet of the Victorian age was Tennyson. Although romantic in subject matter, his poetry was tempered by personal melancholy. It is Tennyson who held the poet laureateship for over 40 years, right? And Tennyson is already discussed by me on my channel. Then the next poet I'm going to discuss is Robert Browning. That is also discussed. If you want to know more about him, you can go to my channel and check those videos related to Robert Browning. And I've also discussed his poems. The poetry of Robert Browning and his wife Elizabeth Barrett Browning, it was immensely popular, right? Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning. They conducted their love affair through verse, and they produced many tender and passionate poems, right? And Browning is best remembered for his superb dramatic monologues. What is dramatic monologue? That is already discussed. Then some fine religious poetry. It was produced by Francis Thompson, then Lionel Johnson, and Christina Rossetti also, right? Then in the middle of the 19th century, the so-called Pre-Raphaelites, led by the painter poet D.J. Rossetti, sought to revive what they judged to be the simple natural values and techniques of medieval life and art, and their quest for a rich symbolic art led them away, however, from the mainstream. And if you want to know more about Pre-Raphaelite, then you can check my video, Pre-Raphaelite movement, right? Then we have William Morris, a designer, an inventor, printer, poet, and social philosopher who was the most versatile of the group, which included the poets Christina Rossetti and Coventry Patmore. Then we have Charles Swinburne, who began as a pre-Raphaelite but soon developed his own classically influenced, sometimes we can say florid style, right? Then A.E. Housman and Thomas Hardy, Victorian figures who lived on into the 20th century, share a pessimistic view in their poetry. But A.E. Housman's well constructed verse is rather more superficial. Then the great innovator among the late Victorian poets was Manley Hopkins, right? The concentration and originality of his imagery, as well as his jolting meter, had a profound effect on 20th century poetry. So, friends, this is about English literature and Victorian age. I hope you will like the content, and if you like it, please hit the like button, share and subscribe my channel, and if you are new my channel, please hit the bell button so that you can get notifications for my upcoming videos. Thanks a lot for watching.